it, the year in which it was built, by whom. These are the 2-3 questions which you'd anyhow. Okay, so let us begin. Please mute mics. And the medieval periods of the development of the field of architecture. Architecture means the art of building. Sometimes people build small buildings like sheds or their own houses. Other times they build very large buildings. These are sometimes temples or churches or mosques or tombs for important kings or heroes, or palaces for kings and queens, or public buildings like theaters or sports stadiums. Architecture was a great activity during the medieval period. It was a medium by which rulers used to express their power and position. All kings of the period built several famous monuments. Backbones are straight, smart class. Come on. Yes. So the chapter deals with monuments. The architectural monuments basically means the buildings built during the historical times by the various rulers who ruled for that particular reign. Okay. Now, when they were ruling, that was a symbol of expression of their power and prestige. Now, any king who was ruling, the moment he built a lovely fort, or the moment they built a lovely temple, or a church, or a mosque, now that indicated his power, his prestige, his, how much kingly he is, how much stately he is known through that. So basically, the architectural monuments which are built during those times were just a show off, a way to show off to the other people the prestige and power that the king had. Is this much clear to you? So while we are dealing with the, just a second, while we'll be dealing with the monuments, we'll be knowing which king during whose reign, what was built, and the significance, right? Yes, child? Why not? If you remember Italy, have you seen, I don't know if you are aware of the world history, there was a lovely proper stadium, and there's one movie also where they have shown the chariot race had taken place in that stadium. So it was not like the ones we have with the tough grass here, or the cricket stadiums which are well furnished we have here. No, not those kind, definitely. But yes, there were huge spaces where bullfights used to take place, and those were called the stadiums anyhow. Theaters were the places where the enactments or the shows were held. So any enactment, if you have seen during the Diwali or Dashera time, have you seen Ram Leela? Have you seen the Ram Leela, which still happens? In those times also, puppet dancing and all those things were happening. Next to the marketplace, there were open spaces where people gathered, and for various recreational means. Okay? Now we come on to historical monuments. Monuments have historical, architectural, social, and religious values. Historical monuments are very old buildings that have existed for many centuries. These include palaces, havelis, forts, temples, mosques, churches, tombs, dargahs, baulis or stepwells, hawse or tank, fortification walls, madrasas or schools, sarais and orchards. So all these places, even till date, you hear of them. Have you ever been to Bada Imambara? Have you seen a bauli next to that Imambara? So all those were the bathing areas. That means these were the historical monuments which were catering to the needs of those times. The queens and all, they needed a place which could be covered well enough, and they went and took took a bath there. Okay, so these things were there. Now we move on to the next historical monument of broad, the religious monuments and secular monuments. Please underline too. And as the word tells you, religious monuments means they are based on your religious belief. If you're a Hindu king, maybe you're building temples. If you're a Muslim king, maybe you're building mosques. So religious monuments pertain to the religious aspect of a king. Clear? Whereas the secular monuments were those when we talk of the forts, when we talk of the palaces, when we talk of the other areas. Pardon? Mansions, we talk of the dams, we talk of the roads Sher Shah Suri built, you remember? Grand Trunk Road. So now these were the other. They were not religious, they were the secular monuments. Clear? I will not say road is a monument, but then I'm telling you those were the works done in a secular field. Clear? Now, religious monuments are buildings that have been built and used for religious purposes like temples, churches, mosques, and synagogues, and stupas are religious monuments. Secular monuments are buildings used for any purpose other than religion. Palaces, forts, residential houses, tanks are examples of secular structures. Clear? Moving further, each region of India evolved its own art and architectural tradition depending upon the local climate, culture, beliefs. Simultaneously, during the different periods of history, Indian art and architecture was influenced by foreigners like the Greeks, and architecture was influenced by foreigners like Greek and the Romans, the Arabs, and the Turks who visited India as traders or invaders. Please underline these names: the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, the Turks. Now, any particular area where a person is living, if you continuously come in touch with some other person who's not of your own way of life, you turn to learn something from him, and at the same time, the other person also learns something from you. So there was a cultural exchange, and that could be seen in the architectural forms. The Turks, the Afghans, the Romans, the Arabs who visited, the Greeks who visited India, they left a little influence everywhere. And this was seen in the architecture as well. Okay? Sometimes a few artisans from foreign lands were specially invited to participate in the construction of certain important buildings. Now, supposing in India, the construction was conducted and certain artisans, that means the people who are going to build it, were called from some foreign land. Maybe the Turks were involved. So obviously, while they are building, there will be a little influence of their work, isn't it? So that was the case. The architectures in those times saw a blend of Indian style along with others. A little bit of Greek, a little bit of Roman, a little bit of Arab and Turk. All this style mixed with the Indian style while they were making these monuments. Clear till here? Moving further, thus the monuments belonging to different regions and historical periods exhibit varied art and architectural styles. So obviously there will be variation in different art styles and techniques, right? Now, for example, the palaces and temples of North India are stylistically very different from those in the South. The monuments which are built in North India, that means the area where we live, and the peninsular India. The architectural skill in peninsular India is also very different from the northern India. Clear? And this is only because of the influence of the various other foreign artisans and workers. Clear? Next, the early medieval period. I would like each one of you to hold a pencil to keep on underlining the important while we are doing it. And same goes for my children here. Yes, child, you raised your hand. Is there anything you want? You want to ask something? Okay. Okay, the temples and monuments of late medieval period, that is 900 to 1300 AD of Indian architecture, are too numerous to be described here. Besides, the old centers, new art centers were being patronized by the Palas, the Chalukyas, and the Cholas, the Gangas, and the Rajputs. Each center developed its own style. Please underline these various clans which were living at that time: the Palas, the Chalukyas, the Cholas. These were the kings who were into different forms of architecture, practicing it and making the monuments different from each other. Clear? Each were following their own style of architecture. Now we come on to the North India first. Okay, backbone's straight. You'll be more alert if you sit like this. You won't find me slagging and teaching. I'm always very alert and I want my lovely children to be alert. Okay. A large number of temples were constructed in North India during the early medieval period. Underline early medieval period. It was this time that the number of construction of temples was done. Every king and every powerful feudatory built a temple. Most of the temples constructed were dedicated to either Vishnu or Shiva. The style of temple architecture was known as Nagara. Please underline the Nagara style. That means in the northern India, the architectural work that they did was called Nagara style. Okay. A good example of this style is the group of temples at Khajuraho. Please underline Khajuraho in Madhya Pradesh. Now, where is Khajuraho? Madhya Pradesh. You have to know the names and the place where they are. So, Khajuraho temple is a perfect example of the Nagara style. Okay. They were built by the Chandela rulers, underline Chandelas. So, three things you'll write. Name of the temple, Khajuraho. Place where it is, Madhya Pradesh. Who built it? The Chandela rulers. Clear? And maybe if the year is given, then that will be the fourth heading. Clear? Okay. The Parshvanath temple, the Vishwanatha temple, and the Kandarya Mahadeva temple were constructed in the Nagara style. So these are another examples of the Nagara style. Please underline all of them. A lot of learning is to be done in this chapter. The temples of Odisha, that is Mukteshwara temple and Lingaraja temple at Bhuvaneshwar, the Sun temple at Konark, and the Jagannatha temple at Puri are also illustrative of the Nagara style. So these are the other various examples of the Nagara style. Please do remember these places and the names of the temples. Yeah. Now the Dilwara temples at Mount Abu, that is Rajasthan, by the rulers of the Solanki dynasty. Underline Dilwara temples, underline Mount Abu and Solanki. There are many temples in this complex. They are built of white marble. The walls of these temples are covered with intricate designs. All these details, you don't have to learn them. Now, like temples in South India, these temples also became centers of social and cultural life. They collected revenue from villages and took part in business activities. Some of them, such as the Somnatha temple, were very rich. So obviously these centers, these temples were the places not only just to worship, but also for social gathering, where people came, sat, talked, and exchanged their ideas. So they were thus turning as they were gradually turning, these temples were gradually turning as centers of learning. Clear? Next, South India. The Pallavas, the Pandyas, and the Cholas were the main dynasties of the south. The Pallavas built the Ratha temple and the Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. Ratha temple, Shore temple, please underline it. The place is Mahabalipuram. And the Kailasnath temple at Kachi, please underline that. The Pandyas constructed temples in the capital city of Madurai. Underline Pandyas, underline Madurai. So just now you saw the Pallava kings and the temples they built. Then you talked of the Pandyas who built their temples in Madurai. Now let's move on. Between 850 to 1600 AD, temple architecture found patronage with the Cholas, Pandyas, Vijayanagar kings, and the Nayakas of Tanjore and Madurai. Please underline these places. These were the various clans or the kings who were ruling in these areas, and they were building temples in a different style. Okay. The great Gopuram of the Pandya periods are found at Srirangam. Now underline Srirangam. The Pandyas had built a temple in such a way that it had a Gopuram. Now what is Gopuram? It's the entrance which is called Gopuram. That means the temple structure was there. The temple structure was there. Apart from it, there was huge gateway. And don't go very close to each other, please. आप सब अपने मम्मी पापा के लिए precious हो, so please maintain that. Okay. Okay. So moving further. And see, this is what I do. These great towers attained such ample proportions that they drove the central shrine. The examples of great pillared mandapa of the Vijayanagar period are found in Kachi, Vijayanagar, Vellore, etc. The finest of all Vijayanagar temples is the Vithoba temple, completed in 1565. Please, now the dates are also coming. Please underline that. So now they were telling you, I was telling you about the Gopuram. Now Gopuram was the entrance. Yeah. Then after the Gopuram, they had a huge passage that was called a mandapa. That means the area before you reach the temple. Then there was a centrally structure where the shrine was, where the image of the god and goddess were placed. Clear? That was called the Garbhagriha. Clear? And then the peak of the temple was called the Shikhara. So there were 4 components here. It had a Gopuram, that means the entrance. Then the path, which was called the Mandapa. And then there was a place where the shrine was kept, that was called Garbhagriha, and the peak of the temple was called the Shikhara. Will you remember this much? Okay. Its distinguishing features are the pillars and the mandapas and the stone carved out of stone blocks. The Nayakas of Madurai in the 17th century were also great builders. Tirumala Nayaka, that means 1623 to 1659, built Vasanta Mandap in front of the great the flat roof corridor with 3 aces. Now, the concept of mandapa was gradually beginning, and please underline the name Tirumala Nayaka. He was the one in this year, which is given here. He had built up Vasanta Mandapa on the Meenakshi temple. Okay, that means the Meenakshi temple was there, and he built a huge passage along, which was called as Mandapa. Yeah. Now we talk of the Cholas. Maybe because of their styles, they have classified from below from where the Cholas and Pandyas started ruling. That portion was earlier considered as the southern India. Okay. Now, the Chola kings were great temple builders. Please know this. Chola kings were great temple builders, and they were from the south. Okay. Now, they built a large number of temples in different parts of their empire. Money obtained through donations was used for the construction and maintenance of temples. The Brihadeshwara temple, also called the Raja Rajeshwara temple at Tanjore, is the finest specimen of temple architecture under the Cholas. So the most famous among the Chola temples was the Brihadeshwara temple, which was also known as Raja temple, and it is the finest architecture of the Chola dynasty. Clear? And it was built by Raja Chola. Please underline all these details and learn them. Now, the Chola temple were built in the Dravidian style. The gateway of the temple was called Gopuram. See, now they are telling you also. The gateway was called the Gopuram. Then the main shrine or the chief deity room was known as Garbhagriha. The image of gods and goddesses were kept there. These images were made of stone or bronze. On top of the main shrine was a tall structure called the Shikhara. Another structure situated in front of the main shrine was called the Mandapa. Now, it was an audience hall where people gathered for prayers. I told you a long passage before the temple. That was the Mandapa. So these 4 terms you have to remember. Now, the Chola temples were extremely rich. Wealthy merchants donated money to temples. This money was used to maintain them. Yeah, we stop here for today. Thank you. You can stop the recording for now.